your old friend Ronnie here. Now, do you remember a few weeks ago when my so-called trusty flatmate Dave decided to inform me that he'd be going away to Liverpool for a few days holiday? Only for the lying little weasel to inform me the day after that he had in fact tiptoed across the coast to the less attractive city of Kingston upon Hull, that any prior consent to me. After having delivered what I thought was just punishment, involving his dinner plate and a spot of super glue, I did think he might have learnt his lesson there. But that was not in fact the last liberty that he'd be going on to be taking for the time being. He has now decided he could just get away with sauntering off to Scarborough for the day, without leaving me so much as a note attached to the front of the kitchen cupboard. Just the usual mess I've got to clean off when he opens it and closes it again without washing his hands. Now, of course, as we all know, revenge is a dish best served cold, don't you agree? So, with that in mind, while I was sauntering casually through his channel earlier, over a glass of orange juice, I had a casual look at one of his other recent videos. Now,
to the end of the platforms and the level crossing.
very entertaining as always, puts a great job in.
Mounted on top of one of the station buildings itself.
But eagle-eyed old Ronnie here couldn't help but notice he got the station closure date for Dovecliff rather muddled up, stating that it opened in 1854 and closed in 1853. That indicates he is possibly a time traveller, or that stations open and close in reverse. So, other plans for revenge having all but significantly backfired, I still had one last avenue of retribution remaining. Yes, is that the Daily Blether? Yes, I wish to report a scandal involving a YouTube vlogger, please. Oh yes, I'm prepared to pay quite an enormous amount, actually. Get back as soon as I can name a price. Thank you very much. Hello and welcome back. I'm on my way to Scarborough, not for the first time or the second, but the third on this channel. Apologies for the rain. We're looking at the beginning of a route today that for 80 years shipped people between Scarborough and its rival coastal seaside resort of Whitby. Starting at this very platform and then moving to another further down, as you'll see very shortly. Before we begin, this beautiful big seat beside me here is the world's longest station bench, seating up to 240 people at a length of 456 feet, and has been resting passengers' weary legs since way back in 1883. I would have fancied a seat myself for the time being. As you can tell, the rain's got there first. Press on. passing beneath the bridge, and then just around a corner is where the Scarborough to Whitby Railway route once began. Sadly, we have a gate in the way in front at the moment, but you can just get to see that fantastic signal box in the distance. And round the corner on the right, there is a start of the single track 260 yard long Falsgrave Tunnel. As I'm not the trespassing type, we'll see a couple of photographs from a few years back. As you might have already twigged, trains had to reverse here at Scarborough to reach that tunnel and the rest of that 21-mile route to Whitby, or the teeny bit of it that we'll be exploring today. That's the reason why this beautiful long platform exists, which still takes up to 14 carriages today. Still with the efficiently accommodating length of this platform that was added to get the Whitby trains out of the way of the others. The need to switch round obviously proves an evident hindrance. So to sort that matter out, they added a further station about half a mile down the line called Northstead Road, opened in 1908. Dealt with the holiday excursions only at the time. Come the 1930s, it converted to a full-time operating passenger station with one through platform and one bay. You can't see the remains from here, and you actually can't see them at all now because the platform was recently demolished to enable accommodation for recent Trans-Pennine Railway developments. If you sit on the right side of the train leaving Scarborough today, you can actually, however, still see the last few metres of the platform, but be quick because they'll be gone one day as well. These Class 185 certainly know how to pick up the speed leaving town. Right, so escaping Scarborough Station at last through the obscure little side gate that most people seem to miss, even when they've already got their ticket and don't need to call it at the office. So on to the wet pavements of old Scarborough town and meet the other end of the tunnel. Love to see the way in front, don't you? Having just remonstrated with a rather ruthless pedestrian crossing, the start of our railway trip today begins with a quick pop by the supermarket, where this unassuming Sainsbury's store now stands is where Gallows Close goodyard once sat, and we're actually standing on top of the tunnel that left us at Scarborough. Getting down your ramp here for a better look. Gallows Close goods yard opened in 1899, almost 15 years after the opening of the rest of the line. A sizable number of sidings plus a turntable, and lasted in service right until 1985, 20 years after the closing of the rest of the Scarborough to Whitby line. A shame to imagine, as you study the scene nowadays, the transition from loading coal into the back of your wagon in one decade to loading groceries into your cart boot. Travesty indeed. Joining the railway again round this corner. And what could possibly lighten my soul here is this lovely collection of 3 bridges, all of different types, as you'll see as we go along. Don't have any excuse not to tell one from the other, apart from the names yet. So we have Wykenham Street in front of us first. Wykenham Street even. It's wonderfully colourful, with the countless graffiti artists that have come and gone over the years, and black and white in places as well. I've seen some beautiful artwork added to these pillars in my years of exploring. This one here often seems to be reserved for memorials. This one, this little cherub here, is certainly new since I last visited back in 2025. I hope no one's sitting at home alone thinking that all the beautiful time taken to do these art pieces has been for nothing. Anyway, no disrespect Macaulay, but we need to be moving on. As you may notice as we leave, this is quite a wide span. There's actually about 4 or 5 tracks at this point still. The railway is uniformly a single track route. For most of it's 21 miles, but for the next mile it still remains double. Now, passing on by the beautiful daffodils and whatever else there is there, we come on to bridge number 2. This is Hibernia Street. We've just seen a concrete bridge. Now this is an iron deck. And we get a bit of retaining wall on our right along the way as well. Lovely and colourful. Might be an overspill for those who couldn't quite fit theirs on the bridge. So, heading underneath Hibernia Street right now. We have a telling building up there as well. Don't think it's actually tied to the railway. You try hard not to be thrown. You try hard not to be thrown, taking into account the colour of brickwork. So, getting underneath the rusty old deck. You can also see the brickwork underneath. Oh, and a bit of a hole over there as well. I can take it there's a bit of weight restriction, the vehicles passing over at this stage. Moving on to the third of the set now. And the best is always saved to last. This beautiful brick arch awaits us beneath Manor Road. And showing that I've got manners myself, I'm going to be nice and slow as I make my way towards it. And also not disrupt any birds feeding up there or flying right past me. No, they aren't. This might be a popular feeding spot actually. So let's feed on the bridges for now. Don't take that literally, they're not edible. That said, I did actually once write a poem about eating brick. Whatever floats the boat, Dave, they all say. We cannot cheat, so we're going to look at it from this side too. Now let's look back into the distance towards Hibernia Street again. Need to picture those lovely locomotives puffing their way out round the corner from Scarborough or Gallows Close maybe. Well, I want to spend too much time hanging around there. And with my first dreadful one-liner for the day out of the way, we'll apply full steam ahead once again. Nice piece of cutting here, giving it that convincing railway edge. It comes to an end round the corner. Hoping that customer from Sainsbury's doesn't clutter up the atmosphere for you. Oh, carry on. And admire the quintessential English green of an April in Scarborough. As we come to the end of this bit, I've got another bit of what you could call art just to look at for a moment, and this one just happens to be on the floor as opposed to the interior of a railway bridge this time round. Now, where we come underneath Woodland Ravine here, there was actually originally a decent 3 or 4 span brick bridge, but some sad modern excuse now stands in its place. Similar to that one we walked underneath on the Morecambe to Lancaster Railway, if you remember that from 2 years ago. And here in front of us is what serves to identify the Scarborough and Whitby Railway route. Dare anyone just walk over it and pretend not to notice? Sorry you're seeing Scarborough upside down from where we're standing. I'll come right around in a minute. Got Whitby here, so we'll whirl right around the other side rather than blasphemously ignore the host town. You know something? I think I might just go up above. A bit of an improvement, don't you think? I just had to pick a way up without any stairs, didn't I? We curve off away and continue down this road that just about discernibly resembles a former railway cutting, or has at least been crafted to that sensitivity. And it's somewhere at this point that the Scarborough to Whitby Railway finally went single track. Although there was still a fair number of tracks alongside it to its left, a tiny distance in front. Just before I prevent you from making any grave mistakes without watching further. Now what probably looks like just a dirty great playing field to you but even more probably a clean grate one, was actually once a huge set of railway sidings, a kind of overspill of Gallows Close goods yard, back where Sainsbury's is now, with a single track that the Scarborough to Whitby line had formed into by this stage, slewing over to the right. This is where the tarmac path that I'm stomping along at the moment follows the route of, and once we're past the flowers we're going to see the actual expanse of this complex, just where I've stepped. There's once a huge footbridge which stretched right over where those last few houses are, across to the allotment that's now standing. Gazing into this huge grassy void now. No one probably my side of 60 would have ever guessed that you'd be looking at trucks and engines and carriages standing in their rows. The site where Sainsbury's exists today saw accommodation for a holiday excursion train carriages to be stabled as well. But given the length of this yard, I thought this might have made a more suitable place. $16 at least to one siding, for as long as I imagine. Excuse my burbling there. We're going to finally break open the history books now. The ancestral origins of this line actually date back to the early half of the 1800s. Was a horse-drawn route in Whitby that dated back to 1836. The York and North Midland Railway Company taking control of that in 1845 and duly converting it to steam operation, and at the same time opened the York to Scarborough connection. Still currently existed, of course, as part of the Trans-Pennine Railway route, which I travelled in from Sheffield today, or at least from York. While also, a year on from that, found a connection from Hull via Bridlington, which of course is operated today by Northern, and it includes Beverley and Driffield and Farley along its track. Proposals to put in a railway between Scarborough and Whitby were thrown before Parliament in 1864, but they soon discovered that they had a new enemy in the North Eastern Railway Company, who had formed from the York and North Midland lot and several other companies put together a decade earlier. And unfortunately, the proposal was thrown back at them. But then, at the end of 1864, the even more newly founded Scarborough and Whitby Railway Act tried their luck again inside that big old lovely building in London with Big Ben on the end, and this time succeeded. And on that happy note, we hit upon another cutting, and at the end of that cutting, you'll be happy to know another bridge nestles awaiting. Not that we can quite see that far around the curve as of yet. Just where that chap in front with his dog is now nearly identifies the spot. Nice to see you can just step out of your own back gate and get onto these huge railways, isn't it? We come up to Cross Lane Bridge here, and as you can clearly see, it's a bridge of two halves from the back half of it being a lot narrower. And need you ask for any more evidence of this having been a single track line? And there's also plenty of evidence of the work that went into this fine lady. Once again, nice to see the rivet still holding stead. Some ironwork down here as well. That might have been a gate at some stage. Take a view looking back. And then back we turn. And then I've got to take a step back in the history book there as well. Because basically what had happened was that the North Eastern Railway Company, Damden, had reconstructed the line along the Esk Valley to Whitby from York and Middlesbrough. And obviously that found favour with Parliament at least, and that's why the attempt at the Scarborough and Whitby line fell through, or whatever was going to be the Scarborough and Whitby route then. But obviously another try succeeded at the end of 1864. I'm going to say 1964 there. In 1864 it went ahead, but it was obviously not cheap either, because Parliament accepted the proposal on the basis that the Scarborough and Whitby Railway Act were going to raise the funds to the tune of £266,000 plus a £91,000 loan in order to finance the project. Unfortunately, that sort of money didn't accumulate in the piggy banks fast enough, so that idea got shoved on the dusty old shelves once more. Meanwhile, the North Eastern Railway Company had neatly put in a route to Whitby via Gromont, but a twice daily express service also proved unviable in the end, and that one also disappeared at the same hole itself, coming out into the open again alongside Pinfold Close cul-de-sac here. And some interesting posts. Now, some mere 5 years later, and the Scarborough and Whitby Railway Act find themselves out of the financial doldrums once more, and so it was on once again. A new route was planned, travelling via Scalby, Cloughton and Robin Hood's Bay amongst other places. And so building began in 1872. But sadly, this was again not to last. 4 or 5 years down the line, and the money ran dry. Meanwhile, back here right now in 2026, at least the weather has as well. Then luckily, by some miracle maybe, in 1878 they were back out for the red again, and so the sleepers began to be laid, and with the help of Charles Fox and Son, the railway opened in 1884 at a cost of over £500,000 and 21 miles, and with reverse points at both the Scarborough and Whitby ends, with an incline and an additional station at Whitby, meaning that beyond Liverpool Viaduct the trains had to come round a curve to get to the main central Whitby station. So a bit of a symmetrical layout in a way, if not an awkwardly symmetrical one. Now we've got this small and almost cartoon-like bridge sitting in front of us just off Pinfold Close. Superbly neat brick coping surround there. The This line was purely intended as a single track route from the very off. Here was to cross the same road twice, and these are not original level crossings. This is Newby Farm Road. We're just flushing over the first of the two in the set. And onto another embankment. It seems I got this film just in the nick of time. I'm filming on Saturday, April the 11th here, just in case you wonder. That's something almost hitting the rocks. Well, I mean, we'll have. Literally. Not so. It's crafted like it's going to be an armchair there. Crossing Newby Farm for the second time now. And not far in front, in fact, only a mere 50 metres, is today's other main treat. We're set now into and amidst the serene brick parapets of Scalby Viaduct. I've got to take a study of the recesses on both sides. Sorry about the graffiti. We are going to find a cleaner one. That's more like it. And now we can look back from the other end as well. And if you're good, we'll go for a look below. How's about that? Now, as just promised, we're going to pop down below and see her in all her magnificence. As that's the major rule of Viaduct. You only see a parapet from above, but you have the power of the arches from beneath. All four of them. Perhaps get down this side a bit, but I've got to be careful I don't slip because I'm holding a mobile phone with our camera in my clasp, which is just actually a tripod handle. There we go. And as there's only so far I can take cheating, here we are, right from the very bottom, by the comfort of the riverside. We'll try again. Now, emerging off the end of this exquisite structure, and also while we're at it, catching a glimpse of a small sliver of ironwork at the other end, we will step into the site of our first station along, which was Scalby, a single track platform with a siding and goods bay also included into the package. Sadly now reduced to yet another bland looking residential area, but at least the bricks are similar colour to what we've just seen on the viaducts. This also sadly being where we have to pull into the buffers for this trip. For now at least. So I'll say, thanks for joining me for the first little portion of this 20-mile adventure along the North Yorkshire coast. We've done 2 miles already. Subscribe if you want to see any more of the other 19. Because that is my dream. Take care and thanks for watching. God bless every one of you.
Carriages are C for Charlie, B for Bravo and A for Alpha. Carriages are E for Echo, F for Foxtrot and G for Golf. Please note there is no walkway between the 2 trains, so if you need to move past at any point, you will have to do that by a platform. If you are travelling to steamer, you do need to be located in the front 5 carriages. So if you are currently located, security cameras are fitted around the train and all bus stations. However, should you see anything untoward, please do let them.
Well, I have to admit, as much as it took me an age to cook it, that caviar omelette turned out to be a cracking idea. While I had the house to myself for the day. Oh, hello. Oh my goodness. Ronnie, what have you done? Yes, hello. Is that the Daily Blether? Yes. Could you get back to me as soon as you can, please? What, in the next 20 minutes will be ideal?